everyone to the Rooted Connections podcast. Thank you for joining. If it's your first time here, you're welcome. If you've been vibing with us, you're welcome.
Back.
It's going to be another fantastic episode, and we can't wait to explore this very, very, very interesting topic. But before we go into it, it's your girl Pam, and I've got my sister here.
Hi, everyone. My name is Uju.
Yay. Welcome, everybody. So today, before we go into our topic, in our traditional style, we've got an icebreaker card that we're going to explore.
Yeah. So today, guys, the question, Pam, what has been the biggest change you've experienced in your lifetime? So this could be personal change. It could be just change in the world. What's the biggest thing that has changed?
So I would say, without a doubt, motherhood.
Oh, it totally seemed much deeper than I was going with it.
Yeah, I mean, in my adult life, I have experienced a lot of changes. Like, there are some things that are inevitable. There are some things that, you have to, it has to happen. You don't have a choice.
Yeah.
But I think that in terms of mindset shift, I would definitely say motherhood, because there are a lot of, misconceptions that we have prior to being parents. And I think I've shared this before on this podcast, where there are things that I would never imagine that I would do as a mother. Do you understand? Things I've said.
You said so.
Things I've said
secretly
that
judge people for.
Why would you do that? My dear, I think as you are evolving in this stage of motherhood, there are some things that are shock. It's like, it just comes as a shocker that you have to just breathe, take a deep breath, and then re-strategize. But yeah, I'd definitely say motherhood. Motherhood has been, I would say, and still is, because it's something that, I'm having to unlearn, relearn along the way.
Yeah, absolutely. I think I said this before in season 1 as well. You don't really, with being a mother or being a parent in general, you can plan as much as you want, but you can never account for the character of your child.
Sure.
So regardless of what you have planned, what you have strategized, there will always be something you have to change.
Yeah.
And I think, which is the theme on this podcast as well. As you grow, you then start to unpack even some of the trauma that you had, as a child.
Yeah.
Sometimes even you have to confront, even if it's not trauma, because I think we use the word trauma a bit too loosely nowadays, but even if I won't call it trauma, but sometimes you have to confront yourself, your ideologies.
Yeah.
Why do I think the way I think? Especially at this age, children this age will question. So you have to have an answer.
Yeah.
Why do I believe what I believe? And this thing that I believe, is it actually the right thing to believe? Because the world is telling my child is something different. So I'm like, okay, I have to have a valid reason here.
Yeah.
Because I said so doesn't count anymore.
Exactly. And just on the point of the why, a lot of the things that we were told we couldn't do, we never questioned the why. So, but we held on to those values as a Bible, as in, this is
how it is.
This is how it is. I mean, more recently, I have a nearly 15-year-old now, and she now very much wants to have a second home. Like, that's our new. She wants to have a second person.
On her ears.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And I'm very much no. And she asked me, very simple. We didn't get into an argument about it. She wasn't like, overly stubborn, but she's like, but I don't understand, if I have one, why I can't have two. And honestly, Uju, I couldn't answer the question.
Well, I suppose for me, it's not even for me, the answer to that question is not yet.
No, so that was where
At
we
the end of the
concluded.
day, that, you're still a child. And as a child, there's a limit to what you can have. Do you understand?
So
as an adult, if you want to pierce your ear from here to here, that's your business.
So how we ended the conversation was I then asked her. So as I said to her, honestly, the reason I'm saying no is because sometimes it's not so much about you having a second hole. It's more around the principles of where does it stop. Because I said I could say yes to you getting the second hole now, and then you come and I don't have a moral leg to stand on when you want to do the whole of your ear. Because I've said yes to this one. So I think as a mother, I need to understand what is your reason for wanting to have. Is it because your friends are having it? Is it because everybody's doing it? Why? So the way you're asking me why, I'm also asking you why. I said some of the things that come, and I think for you, you might just think it's a second person, but some of the things that this thing start to expose you to and open you up to, you're not ready for.
Absolutely. And it's a conversation I have with my 10-year-old as well. I'm like, you are a child. There are some things you still have to maintain your childlike status. I said, look, all this, I want to paint my nail, I want to wear makeup, I want to do this. I'm like, girl, there will be a time that they will beg you.
I've given up on that makeup.
To do makeup. No, it's true. That's what I said. There's something that you will go to a state that they will beg you to do this makeup, and you're like, I don't want to.
Yeah.
So I'm like, it's time and seasons. You're a child now. Enjoy it.
Just enjoy it.
Enjoy it. There are some hairstyles I will not do for you right now because you are a child. But you will get to a stage. Until I say, I will be the one to take you.
Yeah. Yeah.
You want to fix your nails, they will get to a stage.
We'll do it together.
Me that will take you to the salon and help you pick
We'll sit down and do it together.
But I said that, but you have to be patient. That time will come.
Yeah.
But for right now, you gotta chill.
So it's So if anything, I would say that, and you don't even, and I think even when your children become adults, because partly the conversation I have with my mom now as well, my parents, you continue to learn.
Absolutely.
Do you understand?
Absolutely.
It's not a you never get to that point as a parent, even when you have adult children, where parenting stops.
Yeah.
So I would say that it's a consistent change.
Absolutely. Beyond
everything else that happens in your life, beyond the work change, the hormonal changes, the the small, I feel like that's the most consistent shift I've had, because it's something I feel like you're faking it till you make it, because it's the truth. It just feels like, there's some things as a parent you're never ready for. And I'll be really surprised if any parents, I'd like to know, maybe I would like to hear, if there are things that your children have done that's never shocked you, things that, because sometimes one of the things as a mother I would say that I wasn't ready for is the character change.
Well, as a teenager,
from having a child who is very sweet, very, very loving, very needy, to now having a child who is now the opposite of those things, and you then have to adjust to that.
Thank God I beg. Like, that's all I can really say, God I beg, because we just need God please. That's what that means. God please. Like, we just need the strength and the wisdom. And that's my prayer all the time. That God, please just give me the wisdom for the children that you have given me, because they come with different things.
Yeah.
So when I read the question, my answer was, I was thinking more in general in life. And my answer now feels a little bit underwhelming. But I was going to say the biggest thing that has changed for me is the internet.
Oh. Yeah.
In my lifetime, that's the biggest change that we've seen. Like technology, like really. I was saying the other day that nowadays we don't argue again. Google solves all arguments. Like before, we could stay there for 2 hours. This place is the this is the that. I know it is this. Someone are you going to go look for encyclopedia? You can't.
Just Google it.
But now No need to fight. Google will tell us the answer.
Just Google it.
But yeah, and the internet has brought a lot of, a whole range of careers have been born out of the internet, business opportunities. There's so much that has made the world really truly a global village.
Evolved, yeah.
But at the same time, it has brought its ills. I think it was in our when we were speaking about mental health with Amaka last season, where she was saying how the internet and social media has, impacted our mental health negatively, in the sense that now, from a comparison point of view, I know what somebody is doing in
their public space.
I'm comparing my life to, the whole world, someone that I would never have had access to. I'm there comparing my life to that person and thinking, oh, why am I here? Why am I this? Why am I that? But at the same time, I think it's brought so many advantages. I mean, we have this podcast. If we didn't have the internet, is it radio? We're going to go and be doing it.
Yeah.
So, and even radio, there's a certain frequency.
Oh, yeah.
You get? There's a limit to what we can do. But,
it's also giving people autonomy.
Absolutely.
More than ever before.
Absolutely.
Like now, we don't need anybody's permission. Things like this existed, but like you said, it would have to be on the TV. You would need permission to be able to host it on the TV screen and through a TV channel.
Yep.
If they don't sign you up, you can't do it. But now you don't need anybody's permission. All you need is have your equipment. You're good to go.
Absolutely.
Put it out there, and everyone has access to it.
Absolutely.
So, which is that's a really good point, actually.
So the internet. That's the biggest change I've seen in my lifetime.
Yeah. Good point. Mm-hmm. Okay, so on to our topic for today. I think this topic came about because of a recent conversation that was sort of started on the internet, and not necessarily sort of drawing any judgments or anything. I think we just wanted to look at it more from a constructive point of view in terms of surrogacy and perception, the African perception of it. And of course, what we tend to do sometimes is that comparison between, we live in the UK, although we have a very close-knit African community, but also, we engage with outside of that too. But obviously still very much our roots are, in Nigeria. So, instead of, we were talking about this conversation that was started on the internet by this, should I say, internet sensation, who I very much respect, and I really do engage with her content, and I really respect everything she's done for herself. But I think just centering on that one point that she was making about being able to, if you can afford to, be able to have children, even if there's absolutely nothing wrong with you.
So for context, in the post, she was saying how essentially, like, you don't need to explain yourself to anybody.
Yeah.
As a person, whatever choice you make for having a child, you don't owe an explanation to anybody.
Yeah.
And I think she landed on, that even she herself, she can have children naturally.
Yeah.
Or she intends to go to, to use a surrogate. And I'm not going to lie, when I heard the post, I just thought about it. Yeah, standard now, your body, your choice. Is your money, your body. Yeah. And that was my first thoughts, my initial thoughts, and I didn't think anything to it. But
beyond that,
reading the comment section really got me thinking, and which is what sort of birthed this conversation. On the ethics around, surrogacy and, having the wider conversation about infertility and the route to motherhood or parenthood, because it's not the woman alone that is on the journey.
Yeah.
And that's another problem. We've spoken about this severally on this podcast, how we, in our African context, and even us as women, it's not even just the men, we seem to wear infertility as a feminine problem.
Yeah.
As the woman's issue.
Yeah.
But no, this affects the man as much, because he also desires children.
Yeah, and that is true. But and I think that's probably I think that there is somewhat a shift now, because when we were growing up, when it is usually seen as the woman's problem, they will find a way to and it might be surrogacy in some form where they will say the man should go and
Try outside.
shoot your shot elsewhere, and it might, if it's the woman who has issues, then it becomes fairly obvious if the man is then able to get another woman pregnant, which now we've heard stories of men who have gotten their mates pregnant, they've kept it quiet, the maid will have the child, they will now take the child as their own. But there's, I would say, a huge shift now where people are talking more openly about infertility and actually how it is more the couple's problem rather than the woman's problem. Although I still think that there's more of a heavier burden on the woman, because the way that we are sort of nurtured, particularly in the African community, it is usually seen that, are you really a woman if you cannot carry your own child? And that's the question. What makes you a mother? What gives you that title? Is it to be able to physically birth a child? Or can you earn that right to be called a mother if you are emotionally available, if you have raised, because there are women that raise other people's children, but they haven't birthed a child.
So, my take, motherhood has nothing to do with physically birthing a child.
Mm-hmm. So that's a thought process that we need to debunk.
That is my view. Motherhood is in the raising of those children.
Mm-hmm.
It's in the sacrifices that you make. It's in the, the sleepless nights, the putting, that just tiny little individuals needs before yourself. Those things, that is what makes a mother.
Yeah.
Not who physically birthed the child. Do you get what I mean? There are some people that are more mothers to children. Some people have never gotten married, for example. But what they are pouring into other people's children, that's motherhood.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's motherhood.
Yeah.
Let's stop this womb bashing. What way should I call it? Because it's just ridiculous.
It is. And I think that sometimes the way that people even go about it is very hurtful.
Absolutely.
When you say to somebody, because they have not been able to birth a child, you have no right to speak because you don't know what it is to have your own children. But there was I don't know whether it was Trevor Noah that I was listening to as well, who said that I've never been a dad, but I've been a child.
Absolutely. So there's experience.
I have the experience of being a child. So which means that even though I haven't had the experience of being a father, I can relate because I've been a child before. And so therefore, I can understand how a child feels because I've been that child before. And so from that perspective, I can respond in an appropriate manner.
Absolutely.
Do you understand? Because you hear a lot of that where you say, well, you don't have the right to speak because you've never actually had a child. But there are people that are raising children. I know someone who's had to step into the role of a mother when she lost her mother. And she was so young. She was only 21.
Imagine. She
had to step into the role, not completely unexpected. And her sister, which was about 2 or 3 at the time.
So now imagine somebody like that. If peradventure she gets to 45 and has not gotten married and doesn't have kids, because she spent a lot of her time, a lot of her life raising her siblings, right? So she's not had the time to invest. And then somebody will now tell that person, keep quiet, you don't know what it is to be a mother.
Yeah.
Haba. That person has been a mother for the last 20 years.
I'm telling you. And so, it comes down to the question of how we view motherhood. And like I said, it is really learning to debunk some of these sort of, should I say, archaic mindsets that for you to be able to be called a mother, for you to be able to earn that title that you're a mother, you have to physically birth a child. I think that is a mindset that really need to move away from.
100 and in fact, I could not even agree with you more on that topic. So circling back then on this surrogacy, what then is, I think I've kind of said my view a little bit.
Yeah.
But what is your view on the ethics around surrogacy? Now, is it something that we should be able to, I think, well, in the world now, you have celebrities who have, for want of a better term, almost glamorized surrogacy. Yeah. But then again, they've done a real good job at it of also being able to show, I can think of someone like, say, Gabrielle Union.
Yes.
Yeah. Who was very public about her struggles with infertility, and this was the route that she had to go down, and she said a lot about the process and all of that, and it's done a lot, I think, for removing the shame, that she wasn't able to birth the child herself. So there is I think she did an amazing job in that respect, carrying people on that journey. But at the same time, you have people who have also glamorized it in the sense of, I can't carry a baby right now, It's not in my, I'm too busy, I'm too this, but I want a child that is mine. So so you also have that. So what is your view on the ethics around surrogacy? So should surrogacy be something that you can do if you can afford it? Should it be a choice thing? Or is it something that should only be used as a last resort if you cannot physically birth or carry a child yourself?
I think that looking at the emotional impact of going through childbirth, and I think that was what I sort of took out of the criticism. Because like I said, I can, just listening to it at the initial, when you first hear her point of view on it, you can almost say, actually, the career women whose lifestyles does not allow for them to go through the whole pregnancy, they don't have the time, to go, pregnancy does a lot to your body. And when you have watched a woman go through pregnancy, you have seen what it can do to, you can just be sitting down and start crying. On 1 minute, you feel like,
hormones, man.
You know what I mean? 1 minute, you feel like eating amala. The next minute is Burger King. And then they bring both and you don't want to eat anymore. Do you understand? That is crazy. So yes, on the surface level, I get it. I get why she would, why she feels the way she feels. But I think on a deeper level, I don't somewhat agree with her point of view because of the emotional impact that statement can have on someone who's actually going through infertility issues, and who, again, I think the point she was really honing on was, I can afford it. Do you understand? I can afford to. So there's nothing wrong with me, but I cannot. So someone who actually something is wrong with and also cannot afford it. Do you know what I mean? I mean, there's I feel there's a level of almost, I feel, and again, not that I don't think that was intended, but, there's almost this insensitivity that someone can draw out of that. That's one. Secondly, I think that with the fact that when we talk about the abuse that sometimes comes, some of the horror stories that we've heard of people who have gone through surrogacy, some of the horror stories that have come out of even places like Nigeria, where the women are not paid what they're promised. They're not giving what they're promised. Agencies are promising what they know that they'll probably give 5% and they're taking 95%. Do you understand? So there's a level of abuse, financial abuse, that also comes with that. So I think I don't have anything against surrogacy.
Oh, absolutely.
I don't have any, for some people, it like, like you were saying, somebody like Gabrielle Union and some other celebrities as well, I can't think on top of my, I think Tyra Banks as well. She was one who struggled and had to go down that. So, the genuine reasons, but I think it needs to be explored as a way of when nothing else will do.
Yeah.
That's my view. Because even I think earlier on we're researching the UK stats as well, weren't we? Where it was basically there's no financial gain. Almost.
Yeah, so in UK law, you can only do, I think they call it altruistic surrogacy, which means it's you only pay reasonable. You can't, you don't pay for it, but you give the person what they call reasonable payments to cover pregnancy related, issue, and so like medical expenses, those sort of things. But you cannot commercialize surrogacy in the UK.
Yeah.
So looking at the stats, we're saying, just 0.4% of IVF as at 2022 was for surrogacy. So it's still such a small amount, and a lot of surrogacy in the UK is also outsourced.
Yeah.
So parents are having to go to other countries to get a surrogate. So it's not quite as common here. That's what the legislation it doesn't allow. And I think it's for this thing you were saying to sort of still keep it, should I not, sacred is the wrong word, but is to try and remove any form of abuse, to try and limit it, not to say that even in this so-called altruistic surrogacy, you can still not abuse it, but it doesn't become a commercial thing where
not commercialized.
People who are less privileged are now just using it as a source of income. I'll just go and just be carrying babies for people and turn it into a something for commercial gain. And when I was reading the comments, like at first I thought, when I heard it, is that your body, your choice. It's not my body. And the way I looked at it, if you are getting somebody, you're not forcing the person, you agree fair payment, you look after the person is paid. Now it's a win-win for everybody. That's, that was my initial thought. But someone asked the question in the comments that, will anybody do surrogacy if they were not financially motivated? That's would you just, and I'm sure there are people who will, but what percentage?
I mean, I've heard of, for example, a sister who stepped in to help another sister, or family member who has stepped in. I've even heard of a mother who's helped her child, but
they are few and far between.
And even that, but that's because they have seen this person struggle to have their own child, and this is something that they really desire. Do you understand? And we might make very light of the abuse that people experience in countries like Nigeria, that because there are no regulations around these things.
No, there's no federal regulations.
I mean, a movie that came out, I think earlier this year or last year, Baby Farm, it again just highlights the sort of experiences that some of these, should I say, vulnerable women put themselves under because they're desperate.
Speaking of vulnerability, there's this one that I saw it was one of these BBC Pidgin documentaries talking about baby farms. They call it crypto pregnancy.
What on earth is that?
Only in Nigeria that you hear these kind of things. That this woman, she was in the East, I think she was in Anambra or wherever, and she would tell the women that the kind of pregnancy, they will give you some medicine and that the kind of pregnancy we have called crypto pregnancy, that the baby is hiding. Yes. That the baby will not necessarily show up on a scan, that your stomach will not necessarily get big. But these are desperate women who have tried all sorts to have a baby, So somebody is giving you this hope that there's a different type of pregnancy. Do you understand? They will collect sample and all those stuff. But yeah, and that the pregnancy may be 9 months, it may be longer. When you're saying it sounds stupid, right? When you're hearing it sounds ridiculous, it sounds stupid. And I was watching this document, because if it was BBC Pidgin, so they obviously and they went, investigate undercover and all that stuff. So this was, and they were interviewing some of these women that have supposedly had gone through crypto pregnancy. But it's the desperation to have a child that this thing that sounds so stupid.
That
so you will believe it wholeheartedly. But what then goes on behind the scenes, right, is they have a baby farm. So that's why they tell you that the baby, it can be 9 months, it can be 10 months, it can be 1 year. It depends on when they get a girl to have a child.
Do
you understand? Then they would tell you the day that you will go into labor. Pam, ridiculous. So it's when they have a baby. So maybe when the girl is in labor, they will now tell the mother that today's your day. So she then comes and they give her something to
put her to sleep,
to mimic like stomach pain kind of thing. And after what was they will bring a child and give this woman.
Stop.
I'm serious. Then they showed, this woman, and then, she was beating her full chest that this is her baby, that she went through crypto pregnant. This is her baby. These women believed this thing, and you're like,
hey, God, oh, wow, that's crazy.
So yeah, it was. I think at the time, was it the Commissioner of Women Affairs or whatever in Anambra State? She was so mad at this woman, that she was saying, she's like, this is not your child. The only reason she's not collecting that child from her is because she has no way of tracing
the actual biological
who this child's mother. So if she takes this child from this woman, who is she punishing? The child. But how can that, this thing that she's opening her mouth to see, did you physically push out the child? No.
So you believe whatever you want to believe.
But because you really want a child, and these people just prey on people's vulnerabilities. They prey so much, and it's mind-boggling.
It is.
It's mind-boggling.
It is, honestly. And I think that is where the problem really lies, is where does it end?
Exactly.
And, as much as, like you said, at some point, women should have autonomy. But sometimes what you feel is your body or your choice is somebody else's vulnerabilities. It's preying on somebody else's, desperation, because they want financial gain. They've been promised things that, how far do you go with some of these agencies to even know how involved are you with I don't know the processes, but I'm thinking based on how I see Nigeria. Again, it might just be my misconception, and I'm happy for, anyone in the comment section or anyone to provide some clarity on how these things happen in Nigeria, because I don't know. But from some of the information that's, are sort of publicly out there, it's not always the person that goes through the pregnancy that is the one that is gaining.
No, not always. And some people do it correctly. Some people do it right. They get somebody, they look after this lady, put her in adequate housing for her entire pregnancy, make sure she's well fed. Sounds like
she's cared for.
You get the point. I mean, she's getting the right medical attention. She's looked after properly, and the amount of money they agree on, they pay in full, on time, and all of that. So some people do it properly, and everybody's happy at the end of the day. They walk away. And then there's also the flip side where some people have also been burnt. Oh, yeah. Where you will do all of these things and maternal instincts kicks in and this person refuses to give up the child.
Yeah, I think there's a thing in America. I think, I vaguely remember, and again, I probably should have researched it before we went on, but I think that there is the law. I think if she doesn't sign something where it comes to the point of after she's birthed the child, she can refuse to give that child up, where the child becomes her child.
Sheesh.
I think I stand to be corrected on this, but I think it's either a movie I've seen or something. There is some kind of law around that as well, whereby if the paperwork isn't. So I think that it needs to be really, the contract has to be like
foolproof. Yeah, absolutely. There has to be. That's the thing. It has to really, really be done correctly because you're right. Maternal instinct does kick in.
Just decide that actually,
and you can't tell your body that this is not your child. Your body does not know that.
Yeah.
You know, the hormone, and for me, I think that's also part of the things I also look at with surrogacy. Like, you know, I don't know how these women do it because, you know, your body you will still
that and you give the child up,
and then your body doesn't get the memo. You start you lactate, and all those stuff. As in, you need to be a different kind of strong, in my opinion.
Like,
there is a different kind of strength to be able to do that for somebody else. And I fully and completely, utterly respect people who do it for other women. Honestly.
Yeah. For whatever reason, you know, But I think just on the point that was made, I think that there needs to be some level of sensitivity around that. Of course, if you don't want to have a child, that's your choice. Nobody, if that's something that you and your husband or partner have decided not to. But I think that in terms of the way that it was said, I think there was some level of insensitivity to it. But I followed her for a long time. So I would like to think that was not her intention, but still.
Yeah, I think she was just talking about her own personal choice. It's not something about other people. But thinking about it even more widely, though, I'm going to ask this question now. Is it selfish to want a child but not want to go through the process?
That's a deep question. That's a very deep question. Because it goes back to the earlier point that we're making, that what makes a person a mother? Do you actually need to birth the child to be a mother? So I would say no, because sometimes life circumstances actually puts you in that position where you don't have a choice. You have to step in to be a mother. But I think in this context,
so I'm asking, is it selfish to, you know, to want, you know, I want a child, but I don't want to put my body through it?
I don't know how to answer that question. I really, honestly, I don't know how to answer that question, because I think that everybody has their reasons for, I mean, if your reason is just simply, I'm too much of a baby girl and this is not for me, but I want a child. I think to some degree I'm a bit like on the fence with that.
Yeah, I think if, you know, it's different if you have, because sometimes there are health reasons that are not public, that are not reproductive, for want of a better term, you know, because sometimes we only look at, I cannot physically have a child because I have fertility issues. There are other
really clear that
she has no fertility issues. Yeah. But I'm not even talking about her specifically. I'm just talking about in general, more widely speaking, right? Yeah. So you may have health issues that are not fertility issues that makes having a child difficult. Yeah. So you may choose to do surrogacy in that respect. So I don't think that is selfishness. So for example, if you're a stickler, for example, having a child is more, or going through pregnancy and birthing a child is more high risk than somebody who isn't. So if somebody like that chooses to do surrogacy, they don't have fertility issues, but it's a health issue, I can totally understand.
I think even being pregnant after 40 in itself
is high risk as well. So again, it's a health issue, you know, so I can completely understand in that respect. So that's another thing. We only look at it from, you have fertility issues. I think if you have wider health issues, which means that pregnancy is high risk for you, I can completely understand. But if you circle back to our definition, or the definition I gave for motherhood, the one of the key things there is sacrifice. And if you're not willing to sacrifice the pregnancy process, what makes you think when it comes to make the hard choices as a mother, you're going to be able to do it? Do you see what I mean?
Yeah.
So So if you're just choosing it to as I want to live my baby girl life, I don't want my body to be spoiled.
I think it comes back to mindset. I think if I get what you're trying to say, it's a mindset.
Absolutely.
If your mindset is simply not wanting your body to go through that process, because I think that if you have struggled with health issues or infertility issues, so it's not you were willing. It's just that it didn't happen.
Yeah.
So,
or it's a high risk for you to do it.
For you to go. So now going through the whole surrogacy thing. So I think, mindset has a lot to do with it. So I totally agree that if it's as simple as I don't want anything to happen to my body, I'm busy and, I don't want my life to stop. At what point is your life going to stop when the baby comes?
That's the thing. That's exactly the thing. And I suppose the one comparison people we're making, is like to people who choose to do CS.
Oh, yeah.
Because it's like, why would you choose? Because people do elective CS because I don't want to mess up down there. And we're all okay with that.
But what people don't actually realize is that the pain that you go through with CS is more.
Are you telling me? Is
more. So choosing to go through elective, it is the pain in the moment that you're exchanging for long-term pain. Because the healing process is longer.
Ah, my goodness. Let's not even go there. Because I've had both experiences. So I'm one of the rare people that can compare the two.
Yeah.
And for me, I found the process with the CS worse. The recovery. And, at some point, I remember then one day I woke up and, banging headache. When you can't shift. But apparently, I think there was a leak or something in the spinal fluid. Banging headache. And I was just crying. I was telling my mom, everybody does CS. Why is my own different? I couldn't get it. Because people just make it seem as if they will just, stitch it and you just be okay.
No.
Man, I was having heart flutters.
Ooh.
Like my heart would just be fluttering. My spine, everything would just be fluttering. This was weeks after.
Did you have to go back to hospital?
No, they just said it would take time to wear off.
Yeah. So none of that process is the same. You can't compare it. It's not the same.
It's not the same thing. But it's just the whole, I think where we're drawing that comparison is the fact that people make that choice from a seemingly selfish point of view, in that I don't want to do vaginal birth because, I don't want to put my down below through all of that. But what you don't also realize is that one is a different kind of, healing. And it's definitely not the same thing as choosing, because it's still a sacrifice.
Yeah.
Whichever way you go about it.
You've put your body through 9 months of change already.
Absolutely.
So I don't see how that's the same. But again, it's all down to mindset. It's because I've heard of men that have said to their wives that if they don't have vaginal birth, she's not a woman.
Again, that's another absurd thing. Yeah. It's just absurd. Everybody's journey is different.
If that CS is going to save the life of the mother and the child, you will sacrifice it because she's not giving birth like a true Hebrew woman.
But many women have died.
Yeah, of course. That's what I mean.
Many women have died
because the husbands have not given consent, or
That's
the
why I like
you,
Keisha. That's why I like this country.
They would whisk you before anybody.
When it becomes life-threatening.
Of course, yeah.
And even when it's not life-threatening, I remember when I had to sign the papers, they were not looking at my husband though. It's me. Like, I'm looking at him and they're like, ma'am, I'm talking to you.
Yeah.
Do you understand?
Except you are
incapable of
making that decision is when they will have to speak to him.
Yeah.
And sometimes if it's a life or death situation, they can override his decision.
Absolutely.
So
it's like they're looking at me and I'm trying to just like, no, but you're not deferring to him.
Yeah.
It's you.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay.
Yeah. Wow.
But anyway, guys, we really want to know your thoughts. What for you is the definition of motherhood. We've given our definition, what makes a mother. We'd like to hear from you. Let us know what makes a mother. And what do you think about, the ethics around surrogacy? Should it be something that you can choose, or should it only be used if you have health reasons that mean you cannot, or it's high risk to carry a child? Let us know.
Yeah, we definitely want to know your thoughts on that, because it's a discussion that, I think we need to be a lot more open about. I don't think it's something that people talk. And actually, I'm, quite grateful that she she spoke up about it, because it's really stirred up a lot of conversations about things that people have not really wanted to talk about for a long time. Because I think there's a lot of shame, secrecy around it. It almost like, almost nullifies you being called a mother because you haven't gone through the process. So yeah, just your thoughts are very welcome. Would like to know what you think about this topic. And once again, thank you so much for engaging with us, and see you on the next one.
Bye, everyone. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. Bye now.